This is Mighty CS Man. I have a complete curriculum on teaching introductory Java programming with the Building Java Programs book and the Practice It website which accompanies it. So this week we're looking at Chapter 6 for File Input Output, and we're going to look at self-check problem number 12, 13, and 14. They're all related, having to do with this file here, this readme.txt file. How can you read this file? So the 12, 13, and 14 are all how you read this file. 12, it's going to try to read it one line at a time. So this is the code that's going to execute, and they want you to figure out what is the code going to actually output. And so we're going to look at how this works for 12, 13, and 14. 13 and 14 read it by, instead of line, by token, and then by integer or double. Okay, so each time it's going to be printing input for each line. So it does a scanner on the new file, and if you haven't already taken a look at 6.11, let me just skip back there for a second. Do take a look at my video on 6.11. I talk about how this new file works here, but it's going to actually open up that file with the name readme.txt, create a scanner on it, and then it's going to check. This loop here checks. I love having pseudocode, so I'd put pseudocode here and saying, while we have another line, and then here read the line and increment the count. That would be my pseudocode. Okay, so I know that I'm going to have a bunch of these, so I'm going to go ahead and put input colon space, and I'm going to give myself a couple of these things, and then I know at the end there's going to be something space total, right? Okay, so what are these things going to be? So each line gets read and printed out. And each line means it's going to read everything, including white space. So we're going to see in a minute what happens for tokens instead of lines. But lines, you're going to grab the entire line, including white space. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste these lines in. Even this blank line here, okay, that blank line gets read as a line. And then we got another blank line. And then finally, we've got test. Okay, so each of those lines are going to be output. And then the total, how many lines is it going to read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Okay, so that passed all of the tests. Now let's take a look at the next one. So 13 is the same input file, but now instead of having has next line and next line, it has next and next. So we're going to read it token by token. So what's a token? A token is anything separated by white space. Okay. So each of these are separate tokens. So you may be wondering, well, is 6.7, is that 1 or 2 tokens? So by default, it has to be separated by white space. So it would be 1 token. There are ways you can change a scanner so that it'll have other ways to separate what the tokens are, but in this case, it's not. Okay, so we know that we have a bunch of inputs, and then at the end we have total, right? So this case, we're going to start with the first number being 6.7. Unfortunately, this is going to get kind of long, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but each one of these is going to be a token, okay? But when you get to things like this with the blank line, that is not a token, okay? Because has next line and next line, they will give you a line and they will give you all the white space, but next does not. In fact, here, I'll go ahead and do this. I'll come back right back. Okay, so it's just like on the cooking show. I just went in, I made the cake for you, okay? So it takes each one of these things that are these tokens that are separated by white space, and it put it onto each printout, because that's the tokens that it's actually going to get. And then let's count how many of them are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, 12, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of them. So let's run that. Okay, so that got it. Now let's take a look at the next one. 14. All right, so now instead of has So it says next here, but we're going to replace the calls with has next int and next double and next double here. Okay, so now the question is, what's that going to do? So for this first thing here for int, what is it has next int and next int going to return? Well, when it looks at this, has next int is going to look at this and say, no, it doesn't have a next int. It's actually got a double. And so it's actually going to do the first thing. It's going to fail here. So has next int fails. Why? Because it sees that there's a double there. Okay, so it fails there, and instead it's going to end up just printing down here 0 total. Now, has next double, however, will return true. Okay, so it's going to print out the first double that comes across 6.7. Then it's going to come to the next token over here, and it's going to say has next double. So is that true or false? It's going to be false. So has next double fails, so it's going to fail out of here, and it's going to print down here 1 for the total. 1 6.7. Oh, forgot the input. There we go. So what did we learn here? We've learned over the last 3 problems, 12, 13, and 14. So what's the difference between reading by token or by line? So by token, you get these things separated by white space, and it doesn't matter how many blank lines or blank spaces there are, it'll read each token one at a time. Whereas if you read by line, it's going to get all the white space, even a blank line. It's going to get that, and it's going to put that into the count. Okay. And then what's the difference between regular tokens and ints and doubles? Ints and doubles, it's actually going to check the format. So if there's a double sitting out there, has int will return false. If there is a double, has int will return true. But I'll just as well, if it looks at a text, has int and has next int and has next double will both fail. Okay, so that's what we've learned. So if you found this helpful, please like and subscribe.